UFC 305 was a great card. Adesanya put on a good fight against Dricus. I was going for Adesanya to win, of course. And it looked like he was going to win. Going into that fourth round, he was really starting to, Dricus looked like he was dead tired and he's starting to get pieced up, but he somehow managed to turn it around and put the pressure on Adesanya, hit him with a big shot, took him down, choked him out. The basics and the fundamentals are always key. If Adesanya would have had his hands up right here, that punch wouldn't have landed. Now, I'm not saying I'm a better striker than Adesanya. He's an incredible striker, but sometimes in the heat of a moment in the fight, the basics can go out the window, and the basics wins fights. Dricus and Adesanya, they squashed the beef. Incredible fight. The whole fight card was good. There was some weirdness going on with the judges. There was a good amount of decisions, but every fight was really good, But going into the main event, Adesanya and Dricus, it's weird to me to see, Adesanya, his striking is incredible, but it does seem like something has kind of switched up. Maybe everyone's just kind of caught up to his fighting style and everyone kind of knows what he's going to do and he needs to switch it up because he's clearly a better striker than everybody, right? He has a better pedigree in striking than everybody other than Alex Pereira. But by the end of the fourth round, Dricus is landing bombs on him on the feet. Dricus has a very awkward style, a very awkward kickboxing style. Fundamentally, it's not necessarily correct. He's not going to land a super crisp combo and then go to the body and then come up with a beautiful head kick. It's not really what he does. His style is a little bit more clunky and ugly, and he's very strong, but it works. And he's very tough. This fight showed how tough he was because at one point I believe in the fourth round, he was completely gassed to the point where he tried to take Adesanya down and he just laid on the ground and Mark Goddard was like, no, you got to get up. And it looked like it was a wrap for him. It looked like Adesanya was going to win the fight, but he was able to weather the storm and put the pressure on Adesanya. Hit him with a big shot. Adesanya has a really good chin. I think that's something that he doesn't really get enough credit for is he has a really, really good chin. He's fought a lot of the best strikers and he's never really been knocked out cold except for when he fought Alex Pereira years and years and years ago, So I think Adesanya just has to go back to the drawing board and learn some new skills, maybe add in some takedowns, switch up his style a bit because everybody, when you're a champion, everybody's watching you and everybody's studying your style. And now it seems that these guys have kind of caught up to him and they know what's going to work on him because Dricus was doing very similar things that Sean Strickland did to Adesanya, specifically in the finish. The way he finished him at the end there was the same thing Sean Strickland did to Isreal Adesanya in the first round of their fight. So I don't think it's over for Izzy by any means. If he wants to come back and fight, I think he should. I think he could beat a lot of guys. I think Dricus is a great fighter and a great champion. And I liked how they dapped it up and they settled their beef and had respect for each other after the fight. I love seeing that. But on X, UFC, Dricus is a champ. Fight of the night was Dan Hooker versus Gamrot. That was a great fight. That was a really good fight. Gamrot came out heavy pressure, heavy heat, came out with the takedowns, came out aggressive, but Hooker was just in a different zone. His striking is way better, and he's a bigger guy. He's strong, super strong. And Hooker put on a war. Absolute, just a beautiful fight. Gamrot came out in that first round, and he threw some heavy, heavy blows on Hooker. Hooker gassed him out and ended up almost knocking him out at the end of that first round. That first round was like a draw almost, Then the rest of the fight was basically Hooker. Gamrot had a couple moments, but Hooker really he's a great fighter. He's a really, really good fighter and really impressive fighter. I would love to see him fight for the belt. I think he's a seasoned fighter and he's been around for so long. He's seen the ups and the downs, and he's fought guys like Dustin Poirier, went to war with them. I think now it's his time, and whoever he fights next is going to be in trouble. And I think he wins one more fight, they should give him a title fight. He called out McGregor after the fight. I don't really see McGregor beating someone like Hooker right now. Hooker is really, with that performance, he's really in a different zone. And this is a great fighter, really, really good fighter, incredible fight. Great striker. Just a really, really good fighter. It's really interesting to see how he's transformed over the years. I like this new transformation that he's went under. And the judges were on some weirdness. I don't know if it was the same judge, but he made it a split decision for Gamrot. Or a split decision for Hooker. But now that was, you could say, a closer fight. But Hooker definitely won that fight. The fight with Jarzinho and Tai Tuivasa was not close. And there's no way it should have been. No judge should have gave it a 30-27 for Tai Tuivasa. Whatever judge was doing that, he did it multiple times. And it's something that really needs to be looked at, because I don't understand how you can watch Rozenstruik and Tai Tuivasa fight and give Tai Tuivasa all 3 rounds. These judges are ridiculous. These judges in MMA are really, really wild. Main event or fight of night, Hooker and Gamrot, definitely. Kai Kara-France came out. And he was losing the fight. He was really getting pieced up, and it looked like he was going to lose the fight as far as that first round went. But he set dude up perfectly and hit him with a big overhand. It looked like an overhand left, I believe. And he dropped him. Great win for Kai Kara-France. I don't really watch that 125-pound weight class much, just because it's just not my thing. I like the bigger guys. I like light heavyweight and heavyweight. That's my favorite weight classes to watch. But that was an incredible win for Kai Kara-France. As far as the middleweight division goes, who's going to fight Dricus next? Me personally, so we have Khamzat Chimaev out there. I don't see Khamzat beating Dricus. I'm going to go left. I want to see Kamaru Usman fight Dricus. I think that would be a very interesting matchup, and I think that's a matchup that Usman could win for sure. Styles makes fights. I don't really see Khamzat beating Dricus. I mean, we have Bo Nickel. He's an up-and-coming contender. I really don't see Bo Nickel beating Dricus either. I think Bo Nickel would get knocked out. Who else do we have in that division? I think the top guys right now are Khamzat, Bo Nickel, and for myself, Usman. Those are the fights that I would like to see. Obviously, you have Strickland, but we've already seen that fight. Strickland versus Dricus is a very interesting matchup. They should probably run that one back. I know a lot of people want to see that fight as well, but Adesanya, now they're probably going to have him fight Khamzat. And if Khamzat's able to beat Adesanya, then Khamzat will get the title shot. That's an interesting matchup. Khamzat Chimaev versus Adesanya. It's a very, very interesting matchup, or Adesanya versus Bo Nickel. Very interesting matchup as well. I think Adesanya would knock Bo Nickel out, but Bo Nickel is a hell of a grappler. So we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. As far as me, again, I actually came up on this fight card because most of my bets did good. Just the main event went left for me. So it is what it is. If you play out in the rain, you're gonna get wet, and that's how it is with MMA betting. Overall, the fight card was good, and it's interesting to see when fighters go on a big run and they're winning all their fights, and then they lose one fight, and then they lose again, and they lose again. Like Tony Ferguson, you get kind of stuck in a rut, you know, and there's so much pressure that's on you to win that you get so scared of losing. And I think that's what happened with Izzy a little bit, you know, because he did great in the fight. Looked like he was going to win. But the moments when he was starting to piece Dricus up, he didn't really come out like he came out with Paulo Costa. You know, he didn't come out like he came out with Derek Brunson. You know, he didn't come out like he came out with, you know, who else? You name it. You know, there's just so many examples. Robert Whittaker. Now, that could be because guys have figured out his style and they know what to look out for. But I think a big part of it is the confidence. When you go on, you lose a couple times, you lose the confidence, and you're not throwing your techniques the same way you would as if you just know you're going to knock this person out. And it's a very interesting phenomenon, you know, because Adesanya was undefeated, you know, for so long in the UFC, you know, and then he loses one fight to Alex Pereira, comes back, knocks him out, loses to Strickland, and now loses to Dricus. I think winning and beating Alex Pereira was such a big climb, and it was like such a moment for him that it kind of took some of his juice away, you know? That's what I personally think. But Adesanya is an incredible fighter. The three kings, Usman, Francis, Izzy, they're no longer champs. You know, in my opinion, Francis is still a champ. He never lost his belt. And that was a beautiful moment in MMA. We had three African champions simultaneously, a moment that will never be, or hopefully it is recreated again. But Dricus getting the torch as a new African champion, I think he's a great role model, and I think he's a great person for the sport. And I think he's a great guy as well. You know, he's really good at trash talking. He's made two guys cry, you know, so I think he's just a good example and a good person to have as a champion. And regardless of if it's Izzy or Usman or whoever, Dricus is still African. He's still a champ. So we still got an African champ, you know, and he's a great champion, you know, and there's so many good fights to be made. If him and Adesanya fight again, I have Adesanya winning. You know, I think Adesanya was on his way to win that fight until things went left. Keeping your hands up right here. Boom, boom. A punch hit Adesanya on the side of the head. Bop. And then from there, things went left. I think that punch did a lot of damage. But if he would have had his hands up, and again, I'm not criticizing his technique at all. When you're in there and you're fighting the champion, obviously, you know you need to have your hands up. But things can go left at any moment in the fight. So I'm not criticizing Adesanya at all. He's one of my favorite fighters, you know, personally. He's a guy that I respect a lot, and I think he gets too much hate. And I think when he retires, people are going to really miss him because he is an entertaining fighter. You know, he's more entertaining than pretty much all these guys in the roster. Jarzinho Rozenstruik had an incredible performance. He looked more in shape than he's ever looked that I can remember in recent history. You know, he put on an absolute masterclass on Tai. Absolute masterclass. It was nowhere near close, that fight. You know, I don't know how a judge gives it to Tai for 3 rounds. That's insane. But Tai Tuivasa, you know, he's in a weird spot. He's in a tough spot right now because it's like I think he's on like a 3-fight losing streak, actually. You know, he lost to Ciryl Gane, and he lost to Rozenstruik, and he lost to someone else. I can't really recall who that was right now. But he's in a weird spot. He's definitely in a tough spot right now. And I think he needs to probably lose a little bit of weight and just change his game up, you know, ultimately. I think he needs to change his game up. His brawling style is not going to make him a champion. These guys are too good. They're too skilled. Rozenstruik came out there in better shape than he's ever came in a fight before that I remember. You know, he had his muscles on his back. He looked fast. He looked sharp. He looked smooth. And he was just crisp. He was just more technical and more, had better endurance. He's just better overall. He looked like a serious contender in that fight. You know, I don't see Rozenstruik beating someone like John Jones. I see him giving someone like Tom Aspinall trouble because Rozenstruik is just an incredible striker. But Tai Tuivasa, him not even threatening the takedowns at all, takes away so much of MMA. I was sparring the other day, and me throwing a flying knee put me in a perfect position to get a takedown. Now, just the idea that I'm able to strike and go for takedowns opens up a vast majority of moves for myself. As where when I'm fighting somebody and I just know they're only focused on takedowns, it's really not as dangerous. So Tai really should start doing mixed martial arts instead of just brawling with these guys, you know, go in there, take a guy down, hold him down, maybe take some time off and work on your grappling, switch up your game. You're a big dude, you know. That's what I think personally, because he's a great fighter, you know, and I think that some of these fights that he's lost is just because he's not dynamic enough. When he fought Ciryl Gane was doing a million different strikes on him, you know, and he was just way more dynamic. When he fought Rozenstruik, is the exact same scenario. You know, that's just what I see personally. And I think sometimes you get so caught up in knocking people out that the feeling you get from the crowd that you don't really change up your game. You know, we've seen this with a lot of different fighters, you know, so that's what I think he should do. Dan Hooker is a perfect example of a guy who's evolved his game. He's throwing push kicks. He's throwing beautiful hands. He's not really going for takedowns, but he's just very, very well versed in there. And you have a lot of things to worry about in there when you're fighting someone like that. Kai Kira France, it was just a striking match, you know, and he ended up getting a knockout. But going back to Izzy, and on a technical level, what I saw in that fight, to me, it looked like Izzy, skill for skill, is a better fighter than Dricus. Dricus has an intangible quality that is his toughness and his just pure grit, and he looks like he's incredibly strong. There's moments in the fight where Dricus tried to take Izzy down. Izzy was stuffing the takedowns. There's moments of the fight where Dricus and Izzy were just thrown blow for blow, and it was a very good, very close fight. And they were just, you throw, I throw, you throw, I throw. You know, he's just a very tough fighter. I can't really put my finger on it exactly what it is about him, but I think it's just the fact that he just bulldozes you and just comes forward, and he obviously must hit very hard, you know. And I think also his awkward movements makes it harder for guys because he's not moving necessarily in the way that you're trained to see people move. But that middleweight division, to me, is not very exciting right now. You know what I'm saying? Just because we've seen Dricus fight Sean Strickland. We've seen Dricus and Izzy fight. You have Brendan Allen in there, who is an interesting fight for Dricus, but Brendan Allen and Marvin Vettori probably going to fight. Jared Cannonier is going to fight this week, right? So Jared Cannonier, if he wins, him and Dricus would be a very, very interesting matchup. But other than that, the middleweight division, I feel like it just needs maybe some new guys in there. It just needs some new talent, because we've seen so many of these guys for so long. And, you know, Marvin's fought for the belt. You know, Robert Whitaker's fought for the belt multiple times. You know, let's see who else is in there. Sean Strickland, you know, Paulo Costa, Jack Hermanson, Roman Dolidze. Roman Dolidze is an interesting fighter, but good fighter. But for me, it's just not very interesting right now. To me, the most interesting weight class is light heavyweight, and heavyweight, and lightweight. It's very interesting and fun, But yeah, I'm bummed that Izzy lost that fight. To be honest, that's my guy, and put a good amount of money on him to win that. But that's just how it is. It's how it goes in the fight game sometimes, And I think he shouldn't retire. I think he should keep going for the next couple years. Just do a couple big fights. Fight a couple of the guys who are up and coming. See what they're on. And I think he could beat most of these guys still. I think it's just one of those things where you have ups and downs in your career. You do this, you play this game long enough, you're going to end up losing. Look at Anderson Silva. Look at Tony Ferguson. Look at Kamaru Usman, right? He was undefeated for so long. Loses to Leon Edwards and then loses again, right? To Khamzat Chimaev. So that's just the name of the game. It's a brutal game. It's an unforgiving game, but it's a beautiful game. Alex Pereira actually said that he's going back down to 185 to fight Dricus. Obviously, we know Alex Pereira is fighting Khalil Roundtree, so he obviously has to get through that fight. But I do believe Alex Pereira is going to knock out Khalil Roundtree probably in the third round. I think that's going to be a crazy fight. I think that's going to be a very good fight, a very, very exciting fight that we can probably bank on if someone's going to get knocked out. And it's probably going to be Khalil Roundtree. But if he gets past Khalil Roundtree, I don't really think he can go back down to 85. I don't really see what the point of losing all that weight is and going back down there to fight him. But I do think Alex Pereira probably beats everybody in that 185-pound division. If he can make the weight, which I don't recommend, like dude weighs like 240 pounds cutting down. But if he can do it, then do it, But he has a big fight and a big task in front of him with Khalil Roundtree. You know what I'm saying? So, and as we know, it's always dangerous when you're overlooking your opponents. So, Khalil Roundtree is a dangerous, dangerous fighter. And you see here, he has a win over Anthony Smith, Dawkins, Jacoby, Justin Jacoby was a high-level striker in Glory as well. One of the guys that Alex Pereira fought. So, obviously, Roundtree is a hell of a striker, but how good of a striker is he? You know what I'm saying? Is he really as good as someone like Alex Pereira? We're gonna see. We're gonna find out, and I think that's gonna be an incredible fight. I think it's gonna be a really good fight. But he beat Robertson and he beat Bukas and he's on a hell of a win streak. Poncho. To be honest, I haven't really heard of many of these guys. And he lost to Carter Libra. So he's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fight win streak. He's on a six fight win streak in the UFC. So that's very, very impressive. But to be honest, when we look at the resumes, I feel like we look at the resumes, there's no real comparison when you're comparing Alex Pereira's resume to Khalil Rountree's measured resume. So let's look at Alex Pereira's resume. Alex Pereira, Yuri Proska, Jamal Hill, Yuri Prohaska, Blon Walkovich, Isreal Adesanya, or Isreal Adesanya once. So currently he's on a 1, 2, 3, 4 fight win streak. But these are, all champions that he's fought. Every single person Alex Pereira's fought in his last 4 fights have been former champions, or he was fighting for the belt, and he absolutely destroyed them, right? So I think he's going to absolutely dismantle Khalil Roundtree. And that's no disrespect to Khalil Roundtree. I like Khalil Roundtree. He's a great fighter. But I do think it's just a bad matchup for him. a very, very bad matchup. But I think it's going to be a fun fight. I think it's going to be a hell of a fight. And there's just so many good fights. That's why I think light heavyweight and heavyweight and lightweight are the best weight classes to watch right now. But going back to Tai Tuivasa, now that I think about it, he's actually on like a 4 or 5 fight losing streak. This is actually very, very interesting. So when we look at Tai Tuivasa, he's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight losing streak. Before that, he was on a good win streak, a lot of knockouts. Lost to Srilgan, Pavlovich, Andrei Volkov, Topora, and now Jarzinho Rozenstruik. So Tai Tuivasa is in a situation where he may want to retire, or he should maybe take some time off and really reevaluate, change his game, because he's losing to all the top guys and he's getting knocked out. And a lot of these fights are finished. In a lot of these fights, he's currently 31 years old, so he still has a very long career ahead of him. He still has a very long career ahead of him, especially as a heavyweight. But he should maybe take a year off and just train and just work on his grappling and work on his kicking and everything. Just become a better fighter, become more unpredictable, because guys knows what he's gonna do. Guys know how to beat him when he's striking. If he's fighting a real high level striker like Alexander Volkov, like Jarzinho Rozenstruik, like Cyril Gane, they pretty much all those 3 of those strikers have used a similar style to beat him. And when he fights grapplers, they're going to try to choke him out, and they kind of know the path to beat him. So I think he has the potential to be a champion one day still, but I think he has to switch some things up. And it's a brutal position to be in when you've lost a few times like that. It's definitely a brutal position. And on the opposite end, it's a beautiful spot to be in where Dan Hooker's at right now. Dan Hooker is on a 3-fight win streak. 3-fight win streak against good fighters. He beat Gamrot, decision, should have been unanimous. Jalen Turner, decision. And Kulo Pulbins, but the body kick. All these guys he's fighting are good fighters. Really, really, really good, skilled fighters. And I would love to see Dan Hooker get a title shot. Why not? You know what I'm saying? He's a good fighter. He's a beautiful body of work. He's always going out there, putting his heart on the line, having incredible fights. So he should be rewarded with a big fight. He should be rewarded with someone like maybe a Justin Gaethje or maybe a Conor McGregor fight potentially. That's a terrible fight for McGregor, very terrible fight. But I think if you have Dan Hooker fight Justin Gaethje, or if you have Dan Hooker fight Benoit Saint Denis, I think those are very fascinating fights. And I would like to see Dan Hooker fight someone who's going to stand up and strike with him, just because I think he's an incredible striker. So let's see him at his element, and let's see if he can go on there and win a belt. You know what I'm saying? Why not give him a title shot? We gave Khalil Roundtree a title shot off of a PED. Bounce back. He's on a 5-fight win streak, but it's a beautiful position to be in for Dan Hooker for sure. Isreal Adesanya catches a lot of heat, but we have to acknowledge him and his body of work as the middleweight GOAT. No one has his resume. He's beaten pretty much the entire division, except for Dricus. He's beating all these guys except for Dricus and Sean Strickland. He's beaten a lot of these guys. He's had an incredible career thus far, the best career at middleweight. You have to give him that. I think, like in my previous video when I was talking about, a lot of people say, and they just want to hate on Izzy because they say, oh, he had servants growing up or this and that. It's really not true. When you're in different cultures, things are different. That's why he got so emotional at the press conference when he was talking to Dricus, because just because you think that somebody doesn't mean you really know them or their story. And I think MMA and the MMA community is so toxic sometimes. Yeah, someone's winning like Izzy every fight, and you want to see him go down, or want to chip him down. Yeah, but he's also given us just incredible performances, you know? So I think we have to respect these guys when they're here, you know? And that's just what I think, you know, guys like MMA Guru and these different guys, you know, who've never fought before, don't know what it's like. And maybe they have beef with these fighters for various reasons, but, you know, just show a little bit of respect, you know, because you wouldn't step in the cage and you don't have the balls to step in the cage. You know what I'm saying? And you don't know someone's life, you know, at the end of the day. You may think you know, but you don't know, you know. And I think when Izzy went to the fight with all that on his heart, I think it helped for sure. And I think regardless, I think he had a great performance, and him being pissed off didn't make him lose the fight by any means. Dricus was just focused, and he really, really wanted to win, and he pulled out a great win. You know, that's really what it comes down to. The event itself was amazing. Great fight card, great fights. Jared Cannonier is up next, and that's who I have winning. So I think if Jared's able to beat Caio, you know, it's pretty much his last run at the title because he's 40 years old. At middleweight, usually guys don't fight till they're like 45. Cannonier is obviously a freak of nature, so maybe he can, but it's pretty much his like last run at the title. So hopefully Cannonier is able to beat Caio and then fight for the title one more time. I would love to see that. But that fight's happening this week, and we're going to do a deep dive on that fight as well. UFC 305, beautiful event. Izzy will be back. Dricus is the new champ, or the current champ, and the African champ. And it's an incredible card. Let me know what fights you guys want to see. I'm very, very curious to know what you think about these fights, and, you know, what do you think about the main event? You know, what fights do you want to see? Drop a comment below, hit that like button, and learn to fight. Peace.